Now, in your career and kind of journey to date, Equalution, Big Appetite, where you are now, you've obviously done really well for yourself and you've made some decisions along the way that, have led you to where you are now. If you could have your time again and getting you to where you are today, would you do anything differently?
Oh, I love those people who say all the decisions that I've made have got me to here, so therefore I regret nothing. But there are a few things that I wish I would change. I know that we did I actually heard Amal talk about this on Kyle's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I heard her say this too. But we did a rebrand just after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It was about $700,000 and it just didn't work. We appealed to the same people that were already happy and paying for us anyway. It didn't amount to any sort of growth.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good symbol of, we went with the best, the Uber designers, and they did the UI UX of the app. And I think, at the end of the day, people, irrespective of the aesthetic, just love the result and the core offering that, that you're offering. So I think that didn't really quite work. Bit of an error, but I mean, it is what it is. And just a couple of other little bits and bobs along the way in regards to just, covering my bases. I never personally focused on personal wealth throughout my journey. Everything was always reinvested into the business. And obviously, I exited in the end. So it was great. But I just wish that I'd paid a bit more attention to my own future and was not so blindsided by this business, which became part of my history in the end,
Yeah.
So I think that's really important as a founder, and it's not really a common opinion amongst entrepreneurs is that you look out for a pathway of your future that is disconnected from the business. They're always all meshed together.
Yeah.
But I think there's some sense in that,
Yeah, well, I feel like there's always a big narrative around the fact that like every dollar that you have, like pay yourself less and invest back into the business and things like that.
I do agree with that to a certain extent. But I personally think I took that too far.
Yeah. And I think there's also like I have this saying that it's like you have to look after you because no one else is going to.
Yeah.
Like you can't rely on other people to have your back and you can't rely on other people to look after you. Like the only person at the end of the day, doesn't matter how many times people say I've got your back or I'm with you or whatever, like the only person that can look after you is you. So I think there's some real validity in what you're saying around, making sure that obviously you are putting back into the business and you're not just taking everything out, but at the same breath, taking that, in the same way that you said you had your exit plan.
Yeah.
Making sure that you've got a plan for yourself outside of the business.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen.
100%. I think, I think that's the takeaway from the few things that I've mentioned in terms of like the exit plan and building personal wealth and stuff. It's more just like that extra layer of being sensible, and I think there's something brilliant about the natural, erratic nature of being an entrepreneur. There's something great about it, but, sense is also a factor that we have to consider sometimes too.
Absolutely. Now, you have pretty much been in all service-based businesses, like they're all service-orientated.
Yep.
What are 3 things that you think that service-based businesses should be doing?
So the first one is optimizing with technology. I still think in a technology-driven day and age, software is still heavily underutilized. I don't think a lot of businesses realize the level of customization that they can achieve in making things go faster or bettering their customer experience just by creating their own platform, which is far more accessible than when I did that years ago. So for example, to build the Equalution app was about $1 million. You can build an app now for about $200,000.
Yeah.
It's still a substantial amount of money. I understand that. But when you look at like output and productivity, customer experience, long-term retention, there's some massive upsides with investing into technology as a business. So I think that's really massive.
Yeah.
I think that we are slowly sort of starting as, a consumer-driven society to recognize the importance of the customer and creating that sense of community. But I think if community building strategies are not within the marketing plan, I think that could be an area where businesses are falling short these days.
Hey, just a quick one. If you are loving this episode, help us grow and reach more people by hitting the subscribe button and leaving a review.
And I think the third thing that people should be doing is assessing the experience from the customer perspective more often than not. Even if it's going on your website and doing a purchase with a discount code, or you know, if you've got an application, jumping on the app and doing it as the customer, doing your onboarding guide, you know, looking it over as if you're a first timer, all those little bits and pieces. I think doing the experience as a customer monthly is so important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, you mentioned a couple of things, obviously, in terms of your highs and lows, and I kind of want to take a bit of a turn to more about Jade, because I think that there's a real narrative at the moment around, you know, successful women being single forever and like they'll never be in a relationship because they work too hard and their whole focus is on their relationship and their business. And I feel like following your story, you've really changed that, I think, for me and for a lot of people, in terms of, you know, you can still be successful and you can still find somebody that fits, you know, your life and you can create a life together. What has that been like for you?
Can you tell I look like I'm going to cry?
Yeah.
As soon as you started talking about that, I was like, oh, I cried on my last podcast for the first time. I don't know.
It's okay. Let it out, babe. You're in a safe space.
I don't know what's in the water with me at the moment. I've cried on camera bloody. This is my second time now.
Safe space.
Geez. Bloody hell. I thought I was going to be single forever. Like I really, really did. And I don't want my relationship with Matt to be my identity, but it has added this layer of just, I don't even know what, to something I never thought would exist for me. Like I'd surrendered to that. Bloody hell. It's like therapy, isn't it?
I love it. Welcome to the hot seat.
I'd really surrendered. And people would be like, she's her bloody boyfriend again. Get over it. I will never.
No, and neither should you.
I will never. It's been the best thing that has ever happened to me because you know what? I think too, there is finding a relationship and then I think there is finding the one. And to me, I've been in relationships before, you know, this is so different. It's like life has been breathed back into me and I'm being a woman again because I think you're so masculine.
Absolutely.
in being an entrepreneur. And I think feeling love is such a softening feeling. And I truthfully had just shut all those feelings in a back door, and exploring them again has even had benefits professionally as well. Like, you know, I think no one can ever prepare you for having someone at home that just says you can do it. You can do it. And I have to say, even with my new app, you know, I had some fear around it, which was really foreign because I have always been fearless. But starting a new venture in your 30s is so different to starting it in your 20s. You have all your senses and all your wits and all your knowledge and all your experience. And it's so natural that some sort of fear will come into the equation. And yeah, I've just got support now, which is new. It's new.
No, I love that. I think you're so right. I literally had this conversation with somebody the other day around, you know, at work with my team, I'm a provider. Like you do step into that masculine role and, you know, you are organizing everything. You're making decisions on everything because for me especially, like I'm the only person. Like I don't have a co-founder. I don't have a business partner. And so unless you're then in a relationship where someone takes that role off you, you will continue being in that kind of masculine role in your relationship. And I think that you're so right around the idea of finding somebody that can help you kind of step into that kind of feminine space again. Doesn't mean that you are any less of a business owner or founder or entrepreneur or anything like that. I just think that, there's a lot of power in finding someone that kind of will support you on that.
100%. And I found him at the most unexpected, turbulent time in my life. I left Equalution in May. We met in November. So I found him when I was finding myself, you know, and it's just, like I said, it's just been an absolute breath of fresh air. And he's just such a good man. And anyone who meets him is just like, he's just such a good person. You know, he smiles, I smile, like that. that sort of thing. It's it's honestly been the best.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to have those people in your corner.
Yeah.
Right? Like family, fine. Like they have to be there. Like they're your family.
Yeah.
But I think that, having someone like that in your corner is really special. What about your relationship? How do you, like, in terms of your relationship now, how do you manage, you say you're obviously busy Monday to Friday, you're working after hours, you probably, if I could take a guess, do some stuff on the weekends as well. How do you manage your time between him and business, Jade?
We're just a team. We're a team, we find our time slots where it's for us, and we don't have heaps at the moment, to be completely honest with you. That's both him and I. He has a business too, and it's just a team effort. It's just about coordination, communication, and even finding moments in times that aren't scheduled, like it's not a date night. We're not sitting opposite each other at a really nice restaurant. It's just him and I on the lounge with our dog, and I think that is also some of the bliss that this relationship has added back into my life, because I think when you're on a journey of growing a business, it's such a chase and a climb, and it's always just like high to high to high to high. And I am no stranger to saying that I did lose touch a few times throughout my experience. You add success and money and things like that, and I think it's really easy to just lose grip with reality and the simple things. And I think that's something that our time together, whether it be, like I said, something planned, or whether it be something really simple as added back into my life, is just like finding happiness in moments, and rather than things and accolades and, runs on the board in the business and things like that. It's just really added this like meaning of life dimension that I so was ready to find, I just remember when I was in sort of like the heights of my success, I just remember thinking, this feels so empty. I'm so unhappy. I actually said that to myself. I just remember feeling so empty. And this is a cup very much full at the moment, which has been by no other effort other than just like love and happiness and memories.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm so happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Cheers aside.
What the hell? I don't know what's happened.
No, I love it. It
happened in my last podcast too, and I said it was guys, and I'm like, guys, what are you doing to me?
I think that's so important though, because I think especially as a woman in business, I think the narrative around being emotional and being empathetic, like I know I grew up in, the advertising marketing agency landscape where it was a very big boys club for a really long period of time. And I used to get really emotional because I spent so much of my fucking time at work that I'd get emotional when people would be like, oh, that's not right, or that's not how you do it. And you'd just be like, I spent so much time.
Also, that's the nature of marketing too. Like you're thinking with emotion first, putting yourself in other people's shoes. Like
Absolutely.
That's part of the game.
Hey guys, if you are listening on Spotify, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A function on Spotify. Totally. And I think the thing for me is I've grown up in so many agencies where they've sat there being like, can't be emotional. And then when I became a business owner, I was like, can't be emotional. And I think it was like 12 months into me owning my business that I was like, no, emotion is my superpower.
100%.
Like empathy is the like superpower that is going to connect me to my people, to my customers, to my clients.
100%. I totally agree. I have heard that in my own business. I've been told that in my own business, pack the emotion away. It's like, you realize you do, and I think there are people that are more equipped with a sense of intuition than others, like that sixth sense sort of thing. And I have learnt more often than not, data is so important in business. It's always like, the proof of concept essentially. But there is something to be said about that niggle that you get when something is right or when something is wrong.
Yeah.
It's I think that's what is always the motivator behind the foot forward. I think it always should be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think with that as well, where do you kind of sit now, obviously having been told that, now running your own race and starting your own businesses and things like that? I very much believe that emotion and empathy is crucial to running a business, but I take it out of decision making. That's my rule. Do you have any like advice around people for people that essentially might be emotion heavy and they're trying to figure out a way to navigate it?
Yeah, I do think that sometimes some turbulence and lessons does kind of rough you around the edges with the emotional side of things, and you do sort of tend to look at things with more of a logic brain than, my exit taught me that. My exit taught me to you could have cried throughout that whole thing and been up and down and feeling this way and feeling that way, but it was a job that needed to be done essentially. So I think that has definitely helped me disconnect the two, but I don't think I'll ever aim to be less emotional.
No,
I'm fine with that.
Same. I love that. Now, I do want to talk quickly about tall poppy syndrome and being a female founder. I think I personally hate the conversation about being a female founder because I think that everyone should be just a founder.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be any differentiation from being a female founder to being a founder. But unfortunately there is with terms like girl boss and things like that it's like, well, I just don't understand why there needs to be a gender associated to the term. But there is a real narrative with female founders where there's this kind of tall poppy syndrome, and I've chatted to a lot of people on this podcast so far, and a lot of the female founders say the exact same things. It's like they're waiting for someone, they almost feel as though there's someone waiting for them to slip up or trip up and be like, I told you it wasn't going to work. Or what's your experience been like as a female founder? Because for me, I will never be like, it's been so hard, because there has been so many doors open to me because I'm a female.
Yeah.
I understand the struggle and I understand the equity when it comes to, man versus woman, when, business rights and, roles within businesses. But how has your journey been as a female founder?
Yeah. I've had a really positive journey, and I think that has in turn shaped my experiences. I was not only a female founder at 22, but I was also in the tech space, which is the combination is pretty unheard of between the age, the gender and the area too. So I had a lot of odds against me.
Yeah.
We had a lot of odds against us, but I have taken a bit of a different perspective to being a female founder in my later years to those years. I remember really early on, like one of the first podcasts I ever did, I was probably around 25. And I was asked, what is it like being a female founder? And I sort of responded, same as a male founder, with a very kind of Switzerland approach of I don't see that there's a difference. But in my later years, I've sort of appreciated the fact that, I'm a white, blonde, well-able-bodied woman that has not had any disadvantages or anything kind of working against me, that has perhaps paved the way for a much better experience than what some people might, have endured themselves. So my perception is very much a product of my experience, and my experience has been a good one because of perhaps the privileges that I inherently have, even just living in Australia, and we're really lucky, and I don't think there's many people that can say the same thing all around the world.
No.
So I think, that's kind of my perception now. I've had a really good experience, and as a result, I'm very welcoming, very open-minded. I think in terms of, a fear that maybe people are wanting you to fail, maybe, but you've got to be okay to fail first before you worry about someone else seeing you fail. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think, have you ever felt, I hate the term imposter syndrome, because for me, I'm like, it's just a reminder that I'm growing and I'm moving into like uncomfortable territory. And yes, some people may call it imposter syndrome, but for me, it's like a real reminder that I'm like, this is not comfortable.
Yeah.
But I need to be uncomfortable to make sure that I'm growing in the right direction.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced feelings of kind of I use this word uncomfortability. I know it's not a word, but
it's your word.
Discomfort or uncomfortability with like your journey or kind of the decisions that you've made over the last few years?
Not really. I think I've grown a massive sense of confidence since exiting Equalution, but definitely after leaving the company, I felt really scared and a lot of pressure on what was next and to make it really good. But that was in my own head. I don't think anyone gave two flying fucks what I did next, you know? So I think that's probably my main advice against that imposter syndrome is just quite simply get out of your own head and also out of your own way as well, because that will only stop you, and that mindset will only stop you. Even like just using TikTok as an example, right? We were talking about it before we jumped on the podcast today, but I kind of didn't really get my head around that app for quite a while. I wasn't dancing in front of it during COVID. I wish I was. I could be making a lot of money
absolutely
on top of what I'm doing right now.
Or you could be part of a 7M documentary
100%.
on Netflix.
I might have missed the boat there. But I definitely wasn't on TikTok and I just jumped on the platform last November and started, posting quite consistently. And I remember posting and thinking like, oh, I'm a bit scared. It was a bit
not normal.
No, not normal. Yeah. And I think too, because I didn't adopt the Jade in business approach like I am everywhere else, podcasts, Instagram, my own business, etc. I think because I wasn't that personality and I was just myself, maybe a little bit more vulnerable. But at the end of the day, no one cares. Yeah. Like I'll post today, someone will see it and then they'll forget about it tomorrow. It's one of those things, unless you're not doing it, to ensure that you're not doing anyone harm and you're just being yourself, I think just kind of go for it.
Yeah, I love that. Now, before we get to the last 3 questions, which I ask everybody on this podcast, I have one question because I think that, you mentioned it before when, you left Equalution and you were really trying to find out who you were again. You've alluded to the fact that Matt helped you find you again and kind of assisted in that journey. So who is Jade Spooner now?
I think in that time I call it home. Like I just came back home, and that then manifested in a lot of other ways. I actually moved from the east back out to the suburb that not the suburb, but the area that I came from. And I just sort of came back to my roots. I spent a lot of time with my family. My family are sort of everything, but more than anything, I think business will always be a massive part of my DNA because I am so passionate. And I think my love for business is really what drove me out of Equalution.
Sure.
Because that mission is not business as a whole. It was focused on nutrition and its impact on the world, which did serve me while I was that passionate about it. But I think more than anything, I'm really passionate about business itself, and I practice that day in and day out. And I think everything I do is with passion. So I think I'm a highly enthusiastic, and I will never do something unless I don't love it, unless I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
All or nothing.
All or nothing.
Yeah. I love that. Now, the last 3 questions that we have, as I said, I ask everybody before we finish up. The first one is to name a brand that comes top of mind for you.
I'm going to do 2.
Okay.
I'll do an Australian one.
Okay.
And I'll do a global one.
Yep.
Fate the label.
Yeah. Obsessed.
Obsessed. Seeing it everywhere.
Yep.
The marketing speaks to me.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
I'm excited to see what she does.
Yeah, Britt Saunders, right?
Yes, she's amazing. Yeah. And I love the separation between her personal brand and her brand, and then the integration of them as well. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Skims. I know we love to hate. I love. I'm
obsessed.
In fact, what day is it? Are we up for another ep yet? I think maybe tomorrow night.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Yep. Obsessed with the Kardashians.
I love Kim.
Yep. And people can hate on them.
They can. But they're marketing geniuses.
At the end of the day, they have carved out, it's really funny. I use Kim Kardashian in one of my workshops as like an example. And so many people are like, yeah, but she became famous because she had a sex tape. And I was like, yes, but it is what she has done since then. Yeah. Like she could have just been Kim Kardashian.
One hit wonder.
With a sex tape.
Yeah.
But she is not. She is Kim Kardashian that owns Skims, that owns Skin, that has her
Sky Partners now as well.
Sky Partners. There's so many parts of her business and that whole Kardashian collateral empire that they've done so well for themselves. So
I know.
What is it that you love about Skims?
I love, so firstly from a marketing perspective, I love the inclusivity. I think a lot of women can identify with every representation that they make, which is really great.
Yeah.
I think the marketing is really consistent. I think the product is epic. I own a couple of the pieces myself. It's Exy, but I love the product, and I think that's achieving success is if your customers are happy, happy customer. So yeah, I love the pivots that they just reinvent the wheel. You know, like today I even saw she's partnered with, I think, the soccer personalities, men. Yeah. So yeah, she's just constantly expanding, and I think that chase for continual growth is evident in all her marketing. Love. Yep.
What is one thing that you think helps keep a brand top of mind?
I think just the consistency factor with content, omnipresence. Yeah. You know, you can't just be, I think the failure that people make these days, or the lesson more so to be learned, is that Instagram is not going to be your backbone. No. You need, all the other little vertebrae working in alignment, and that means being in a number of different channels and platforms, not just Instagram. And also your customers are a channel. They will always be a channel. They've got platforms, they've got voices, I think that's definitely a heavily neglected area.
I love. And the last one, only because I'm obsessed with quotes, is what is a quote that's kind of top of mind for you, or something that you've kind of constantly referred to throughout your journey so far?
I live by this quote: the only way out is through.
I love.
And anyone around me would say, broken down record, heard it all before. My sister would be like, stop with that. That's so 2020. But it's literally, it's been my saving grace.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Jade, thank you so much for giving me your time. I know you are so busy.
And my tears.
And
what
your
the
tears,
hell?
time and tears. I love it. There's always time for tears.
I'm just that girl now.
No, I'm
just
okay
the
with that.
The relationship is just like, will it die down? I don't know.
It softened her.
It did.
She's melting butter.
Yes,
I love it. I love it. No, I really love it. I think thank you for your time. Thank you for your experience, and thank you for being so open about your journey so far. We'll have to get you on when you start your next business.
I would love that.
We can go into more details about that. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
One last thing from me before you go. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button or leave us a review wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast.